The United States Stove Company is one of the biggest names in pellet heating, which makes it the kind of brand you buy without a second thought. And that's exactly what people did when the Home Comfort 2400 came out. But what nobody knew was that some of these units would end up catching fire, and this caused a massive recall back in 2015. So before you buy a pellet stove, make sure you don't make these mistakes. Mistake 8, trusting the BTU on the box. Every pellet stove has a number on the box telling you how much heat it puts out, measured in something called British Thermal Units, or BTUs for short. The bigger that number, the more heat the stove is supposed to produce. However, that number is often inflated, and some manufacturers print the heat going into the stove, not the heat that actually comes out into your room. That means the stove you're looking at may heat a lot less space than the label suggests. And that's a problem, because if your stove is too small for your space, it has to run at full power just to maintain heat. And over time, that continuous load wears out the motor and moving parts much faster than normal. So instead of trusting whatever is printed on a shelf tag, you should check the EPA's Certified Wood Heater List online. And this is a public database where every stove sold legally in the US has been tested in a lab, so the BTU numbers there are the real ones. And if your room is caught somewhere between two stove sizes, then I choose the larger one, because you can always turn a bigger stove down once your room is warm enough, but if a smaller stove is on max and it's still cold, then you're out of luck. Mistake 7, not measuring the firebox depth. Now, not every pellet stove installs the same way, and which type you buy changes what you need to measure. A freestanding stove is the simpler case. It stands on its own base in the room, so you mostly just need to check the clearance to the wall behind it, any nearby windows or doors, and make sure you're using a heat-resistant hard pad size to the manufacturer's specs. And an insert stove is a very different kind of project. Instead of standing on its own, it slides into an existing fireplace opening, looks built into the wall, and usually uses the chimney you already have. And that's exactly where one measurement causes more trouble than any other. And it isn't the width or the height of the opening, it's how deep the firebox actually is. Because if you get that number wrong, then the insert either won't go in far enough or sit too far back to vent properly. And at that point, you're paying to ship a heavy stove back, and just the freight alone can run you hundreds of dollars. So before you order anything, grab a tape measure and go from the front lip of the firebox floor straight back to the rear wall. And while you're at it, look for anything that could get in the way, like a raised heart edge, a gas line, or an ash cleanout door. Any of these can change how far back the insert will fit. Mistake 6, grabbing whatever pellets are cheapest. Now, the quality of pellets depends on two things, moisture and ash. Too much moisture makes them burn weak and sluggish, while too much ash leaves a hard buildup that can jam the auger and clog the burn pot. So when you're buying, go for a bag that stays under 8% moisture and 1% ash, which is typically around $10. And I know the cheaper bags are sitting right there tempting you, but a lot of those are padded out with bark, filler, and whatever the mill swept off the floor that morning. So what you're really buying is a bigger pile of ash to deal with after every burn. And depending on the stove, they can even void the warranty, since some manufacturers only cover you when certified pellets were used. But how do you know a bag is certified? Just flip the bag over and look for a tiny logo, either PFI or EN+. It's often tucked near the bottom, and it means a lab outside the company has already tested those pellets for moisture and ash. It's a small thing to check, but it's also doing a lot of the work in keeping your stove running clean. Mistake 5, expecting pellet heat during an outage. Now, unlike a wood stove, which just needs wood and a match, a pellet stove also needs electricity to run. And the auger that feeds pellets into the fire and the fans that push air through it all rely on power. That means when the electricity goes out, the stove shuts down completely. And things get even worse if that happens while the stove is already burning. The fire can keep smoldering for a bit, but without the exhaust fan pulling smoke outside, that smoke has nowhere to go but put back into the room. And that's a genuine safety issue you have to stay on top of right away. So a pellet stove can still get you through a winter storm, but only if you've got backup power ready to keep it running. Now, the good news is that you don't need a huge system. Most pellet stoves only pull somewhere between 80 to 150 watts once they're up and running, and with a short spike closer to 3 to 400 watts during startup. So a modest generator should do the trick. Mistake 4, installing it yourself without a permit. Since 1988, the year the EPA decided wood and pellet stoves needed rules, you haven't been able to just plop one down and light a match. Your local building department gets a say first. But this permit exists for a reason, and it isn't just there to create some extra bureaucracy. We all know a pellet stove sends combustion gases outside every time it runs, and carbon monoxide is one of them, and you can't see it, smell it, or judge without a glance whether your vent path is truly carrying it away. Now the permit is there so an inspector can review the installation and make sure those gases are being vented safely. And in most areas, getting that permit is pretty simple. You just fill out a short form, show where the stove and vent will go, and an inspector signs off once it's in. The fee is usually around $50 to $100, although some cities charge you a percentage of your total project cost instead. And if you don't like dealing with all that, you can always hire a licensed installer to take care of the details, so you mostly just sign and pay. However you handle this, I'd take inspections seriously. Skip it and I promise you that the fine is the least of your problems. An insurance company can refuse a claim if the install was never inspected, and a building inspector who spots it later can force you to pull the whole setup back out. Mistake 3, ignoring the real operating cost. Now manufacturers don't only stretch the truth on BTU output, they often do it on a hopper size as well. In real measurements, some hoppers have come up to 18% short of the advertised capacity, and that's a big deal, because hopper size determines how long the stove runs before you have to refill it. So if the hopper is smaller than the label suggests, it won't run as long between refills, and you'll go through pellets a bit quicker than you planned. Now beyond the hopper, there's the actual fuel to think about. A 40-pound bag burns for about a day, and a typical home will use around 100 bags over a full winter. And at roughly $8 a bag, that's close to $800 just to keep the stove fed for the season. Now hold that number up next to your current heating bill, and you might just come out ahead, but you also just might end up paying more. Mistake 2, choosing a brand with no local dealer or parts support. Now you might see a lesser known brand at a much lower price and think you've scored a deal. Chances are you haven't. That discount usually means that there's no dealer network behind it, so when the igniter dies in the middle of winter, your replacement is sitting in a warehouse 3 states away or even overseas. Now with a popular brand like Harman, the story is completely different. Their dealers have direct access to parts so they can get what they need quickly and have your stove back up without long delays. Now an auger motor typically holds about 8 years of daily winter use, while the igniter tends to give out sooner. Either way, every stove hits one of those walls eventually. So get ahead of it now and call a dealer near you and ask if they stock parts for the exact model you're eyeing, not just whether they can transfer you to someone. Mistake 1, planning around old rebate numbers. Now there's a golden window when a high-efficiency pellet stove really paid you back. Under a federal program, you could receive 30% of the cost back, up to $2,000 a year, simply for switching away from oil and gas. And I'd bet a lot of you never heard of this, and honestly, that's the kind of whole problem here. By the end of 2025, that credit was gone, and even so, a lot of online advice still hasn't been updated and keeps spreading old information. That's why you shouldn't plan your budget around any rebate until you've checked what's really available in your area. Some states and countries still offer change-out programs or rebates worth thousands. Just keep in mind the rules, so the offer you remember from 3 years ago may be long gone. And there you have it, the mistakes that turn a good pellet stove into a headache. Make sure you fix these before you buy. And if this saves you a headache, make sure to subscribe. And thanks for watching.